Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Paradyme Podcast. We're so grateful that you're here. This week, we're going to be continuing our reading of Beyond Good and Evil by Friedrich Nietzsche. We are starting chapter 9, titled What is Noble? And we're going to be reading aphorisms 257 through 261. We're getting pretty close to the end of the book here. I think there's about 30 aphorisms left. And it's been a hell of a read. So before we jump into it, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment down below if you've been keeping up with us, and tell us what your favorite aphorism has been so far. And then follow us on all our social media platforms. All you'll need will be down in the description box below. So I will jump in, starting aphorism 257.
I got it.
Huh?
Oh. Look, Jason started. Dog, let the boy read.
All right. Aphorism 257. Every elevation of the type man has hitherto been the work of an aristocratic society, and so it will always be. A society believing in a long scale of gradations of rank and differences of worth among human beings, and requiring slavery in some form or other. Without the pathos of difference, such as grows out of the incarnated difference of classes, out of the constant outlooking and downlooking of the ruling caste of on subordinates and instruments, and out of their equally constant practice of obeying and commanding, of keeping down and keeping at a distance. That other, more mysterious pathos could never have arisen. The longing for an ever new widening of distance within the soul itself, the formation of an ever higher, rarer, further, more extended, more comprehensive states. In short, just the elevation of the type man, the continued self-surmounting of man, to use a moral formula in a supermoral sense. To be sure, one must not resign oneself to any humanitarian illusions about the history of the origin of an aristocratic society. That is to say, of the preliminary condition for the elevation of the type man. The truth is hard. Let us acknowledge unprejudicedly how every higher civilization hitherto has originated. Men with a still natural nature, barbarians in every terrible sense of the word, men of prey, still in possession of unbroken strength, of will and desire for power, threw themselves upon weaker, more moral, more peaceful races, perhaps trading or cattle-rearing communities, or upon old mellow civilizations, in which the final vital force was flickering out in brilliant fireworks of wit and depravity. At the commencement, the noble caste was always the barbarian caste. Their superiority did not consist, first of all, in their physical, but in their psychical power. They were more complete men, which at every point also implies the same as more complete beasts. All right. Let's see here.
Okay, well, let's start with the top. Let's start with the beginning of it.
All right.
It's like every elevation of the type man has hitherto been the work of an aristocratic society, and so will always be a society believing in a long scale of gradations of rank and differences of worth among human beings. Okay, that right there. I thought like, okay, first, to even be able to aim at something higher, right? Which is like the elevation of man, which makes us different from beasts, okay? Is that like, our starting point is that we're able to grade things accordingly or to be objective, right? And we need to be able to be like, okay, I don't know. It's not a complete thought, actually.
Well, they embrace hierarchy and inequality.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Recognize that, and they embrace it and accept it.
How about this? Let's expand on that. Like, do you guys like hierarchy, let's say in your workplace? Fully a hierarchy. Yes, me too.
It provides
Clear structure and like
clarity.
and like communication and like roles and responsibilities, right?
Right.
Any workplace with poor hierarchy management is like chaos. It seems like, or it's like drama filled, right? But like objectively, like any workplace I worked at, when there's like clear hierarchy, it almost like runs like a good machine, you know?
Right. They have a big gear that spins based on other little gears around it.
Yeah, and like the little gear doesn't have to talk like the big gear. That would make no sense, right? For the
Right.
hierarchy of like the workplace, you know? Yeah.
I don't know. I got the for this section alone, this aphorism. It felt as if he was saying, no matter at whatever turn of man's existence, we will never escape the hierarchy of the evolution of the barbarian. Like there will always be like the weak versus the barbarian, where like the barbarian is powerful spiritually, physically, in all sense of dimensions, and will always take from the people that use. He gets into it, but the morality of like being what does he call them?
Cattle. He's heel or cattle.
Cattle. And when I was reading that section, it felt as like there is no, like, if you just think out as far as you can think, there's never been a time where, like, we think of ethical and what we use the word gallons up in the
Moral.
egalitarian, but it's being passed around a lot. It's like a buzzword today. But back then when barbarians,
Equitable.
yeah, equitable, all of these like buzzwords that are popular today, back in the Vikings and the barbarians and having to go fight for food and shit and fight for territory, like they weren't thinking about, I think I would imagine most of the villages are thinking about how do I keep my village alive for the most part. And so I think this section alone, this aphorism, I think it encapsulates what he's saying is we will never outrun a sense of hierarchy, no matter how much we want everybody to get the same playing field.
Yeah.
Message I got.
And he's talking about these kind of like these births of new cultures and their aristocratic leaders. What does he say here? He says it's on the next page, but men with this barbarian nature throw themselves upon weaker, moral, more peaceful races, or upon old, mellow civilizations in which final vital force is flickering out in brilliant fireworks and wit and depravity.
So this is the next page?
Yeah, so it's right under "Let us acknowledge unprejudicedly how every higher civilization." It continues after that.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, see. I mean,
like,
you could say that's like what's happening to England right now, you know,
or even here in a sense. Like it's not.
I thought us too. Yeah.
It's not as well.
But you would say like they're weaker. I mean, more mellow people as of now. You know.
But yeah, definitely. But this idea of like making rules based on compassion is like the sword or like the procedure that these new aristocratic rulers are coming in with. And through that, they're kind of exercising their power on this cattle, in a sense. Like we're seeing this old, mellow civilization of America or England that has become witty and, depraved. And now new aristocratic values are being put onto it. Well, maybe the values aren't aristocratic, but the people that are exercising them see themselves as such.
Yeah, even just fundamentally, it seems as if there is class being divided by the population in some sense, right? Like you just have higher classes of like, I think politicians are like the greatest at this. Like they make everything seem good on paper, but when you go to put it at their front door, they never want it in their backyard. It's not just good on paper.
Yeah, they have the most progressive ideas, but they don't actually have to live them because they live in like gated communities. That's like actually not a part of the world that they're like weighing in on. Yeah.
So it's like when the aristocratic fundamental foundation, I would say, yeah, like at least here at home, it feels as if we do have some aspect of that foundation kind of just imprinted in our government.
It seems like a lot of the social movements, like societal movements that we're seeing now, are to get rid of hierarchy, like patriarchy or, is systemic racism. Like there's this idea of hierarchy that kind of spans a bunch of societal movements.
Can we okay, sorry. No,
Go ahead.
go ahead. But I like the way it ends too, and I kind of what she's like which at every point also implies the same as more complete beasts. Okay, so he's talking about how like it's not just their physical, but it's their what is that psychical power. He's like it's not just their physical, but their psychical power.
Yeah,
that it's like not only does it make them more complete men, and that these are the aristocrats he's talking about, right? These like people of higher rank that are able to like pretty much enforce their will upon like more things. Okay, like pretty much what he's saying. Weaker things. I think that's what he's saying. But he's like, not only does it make them more complete men, it then reinforces like the more complete beast. And I think that as in like what's the most dangerous thing to a human? It's like another fucking human, because like we're the most cunning, strong, like objectively thinking. It's like that we're each other's own worst enemies. So like we are like a beast to ourselves. You know, like a strong man with bad intentions can be viewed as like a beast. You know, he would be like an antagonist in a story.
right. Not only does he know how to kill you, but he knows how to inflict the most amount of pain possible beforehand.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Uh-huh.
I do really like DJ's take on this aphorism alone. Because I don't know, you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think he takes a very neutral stance of like his understanding of how we've got to be where we're currently at. Like the way his plan is, even his writing shows that the strongest, the most complete specimen of human is going to be the one that survives the longest. And not only that, he's going to have to commit heinous acts amongst other humans, which inevitably makes him one of the strongest humans. It's almost like you have to, I guess in our morality, the evil sense of like acting upon another human in a wrong way to continue your existence or take over someone else's. But it seems as if he's claiming it to be like, this is almost a complete noble of one strain that they must overcome. So I think he takes a very neutral stance on understanding that there are weaker and then there are stronger, and usually the stronger win in most circumstances.
Yeah, this type man, this aristocrat that he's talking about, the big qualities is that they embrace hierarchy and inequality, right? Like they can recognize it and they can accept it, and then they can exercise their will to power on it, right?
Right, exactly.
And that these civilizations they're not born from peace and morality, but this part's from AI, but from the vitality of conquerors who impose order on weaker people. True greatness, whether personal or cultural, demands difference, struggle, and self-overcoming.
Yeah,
interesting. This reminds me of the Jordan Peterson when he talks about, I think it's the first rule with the lobsters example of like the higher that's commonly found in nature too, not just in man's sense, but that is like something we can observe as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The first book of his antidotes, is it Antidote to No, 12 Rules for Life, Antidote to Chaos, the first one. Yeah. Where he's talking about recognizing where you're at in the hierarchy and then doing what you can to, instead of being a number 10 lobster, become a number 6 lobster. That's exactly right. Yeah. All right. You guys ready to jump into 258?
Send it.
Yeah. All right. Who's got it?
I got it.
All right, then.
Corruption. corruption as the indication that anarchy threatens to break out among the instincts, and that foundation of the emotions, called life, is convulsed, is something radically different according to the organization in which it manifests itself. When, for instance, an aristocracy like that of France at the beginning of the Revolution flung away its privileges with sublime disgust and sacrificed itself to an excess of its moral sentiments, it was corruption. It was really only the closing act of the corruption which had existed for centuries, by virtue of which that aristocracy had abdicated step by step its lordly prerogatives and lowered itself to a function of royalty, in the end even to its decoration and parade dress. The essential thing, however, in a good and healthy aristocracy is that it should not regard itself as a function either of the kingship or the commonwealth, but the significance and highest justification thereof, that it should therefore accept with a good conscience the sacrifice of a legion of individuals who, for its sake, must be suppressed and reduced to imperfect men, to slaves and instruments. Its fundamental belief must be precisely that society is not allowed to exist for its own sake, but only as a foundation and scaffolding by means of which a select class of beings may be able to elevate themselves to their higher duties, and in general, to a higher existence, like those sun-seeking climbing plants in Java. They are called Sipo Matador, which encircle an oak so long and so often with their arms until at last, high above it, but supported by it, they can unfold their tops in the open light and exhibit their happiness.
The imagery is crazy.
Yeah, I really like that one at the end.
Yeah, it's dark. Like these, if we kind of take Zarathustra into account, these supermen, these Ubermensch, come in and use society simply as a scaffolding to step upon, to reach up towards the sun.
Yep.
To achieve their goals. It's dark, but it's the way he wrote it, beautiful.
Can we take it the other way though? Like, I don't think it necessarily has to be dark. Like, I think we can look at it in like the most beautiful sense. Is that like, when I was reading it, it makes me think of like, bees don't think of themselves as individuals. They're part of the hive. Okay, and there's a clear hierarchy, right? And the whole point of the bee is to prolong the existence of bees. Period. Like, not even like himself or the bee next to him or even the queen, because she'll die eventually too. It's just like they're just making sure like bees just never stop. At this hive, right?
Right.
And like humans, like if we would take that same principle and like, if we would think of humans as not just individuals, but like we're like already like we're big conglomerates of people, United States, Russia, China, and like as a conglomerate, we can reach heights as a nation that we could never do individually. Like, for example, we went to space, so they say, but we can only do that as a team effort, and
Right.
Only a select few people even got to go to the moon. And they did it on like humanity's back, but we did it. We let them, like, as a nation, like all the people who worked on that project, let's say, they let them stand on their shoulders and they did it with love. They go like one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think like you could take it as in like, oh, he's using people as scaffolding to just like step on them and elevate him. Or it could be like, hey, have you guys ever been part of like a good team or whatever? It's like you would do anything to play your role so the team wins, and like you might not even be the MVP, but your job is to make sure the MVP has the room to do what he's got to do to like to hold it down for the team. So you'll do like whatever you can. So like I feel like I kind of agree sometimes. I think that's like how we like to operate. I think that's why like family is like such a strong center for a lot of people. It's like we want to be part of a team. Like doing stuff alone is hard. So a great leader kind of takes like that like intrinsic nature of humans already, and he like guides you to a higher place with him. He's like, come with me, I'm gonna go do it. Or an authoritarian does it via like top down, like I'm gonna use you as scaffolding or whatever. But like I feel like it's the same thing. It's like one's done with like the romanticism of life, I guess, and the other one's done out of like fear of death.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well,
It's a good way to look at it too. Like the family structure you're mentioning could be the oak tree, but it just takes one, you know?
yeah, it just takes one. Like my parents, like if I could walk away and have a grandkid, I bet you my parents like, it's done, dude. We could call it, like, and like they're individuals too, but like, and that's like in the most intimate level.
Yeah. Me.
I thought I hit that pretty fucking good. I like to say, I don't know what I had to say about that. I don't like that.
On the head, bro.
Should we move on, or you got stuff to say, Jay?
Let's see. Hold on. Let's see. Here's what I got. I got Nietzsche defines corruption as the breakdown of inner order, not moral vice. A decaying aristocracy, like pre-revolutionary France, dies by surrendering to guilt and moral sentiment. A healthy aristocracy, by contrast, sees itself as the justification of society, the structure through which higher types can rise. Society should exist as scaffolding for greatness, not as an end in itself. This idea of surrendering to guilt and moral sentiment, that's huge, right? Like that.
Sorry.
You're seeing that in culture now, right? Like,
Yeah,
we're supposed to feel guilty as men, right? Like, and give, and be moral, like, and fall for moral sentiment by feminists, and we're supposed to feel guilt for all these different things that we're seeing at like societal movements. Their thing is, I'm a victim, you should feel guilty, and we're seeing like
there's a term called like white guilt, where they're like, because I was able to have privilege, or before, like 2 generations ago, they were trying to like be good examples of society. They're like, we're so sorry that my parents were successful.
Right.
I'm so sorry that my parents were successful. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah. It's leading to decay.
Yeah, because then like the people after them, like what looks like that, like what offspring could those people make, who like their whole thing is like, I'm so sorry that I have privilege. It's like, dude, like, not, I'm just saying, like, just be happy, bro. Like, not like just be happy with it. It's fine. Like it's fine. No one gets to choose how you're born. We only get to choose how we move. So like if my parents were, if I was born to the Dr. Pepper family, I would be stoked about it. I would want to be a soda heir. I don't, but like that's just not the case. So it's okay. I just, as an example, there's someone in this area that's like a Dr. Pepper family person, which is fun.
It's like the cycle that you're talking about is like when who draws the end of when like that privilege guilt goes away? Is it for generations, or like who draws the line of being like, hey, you should, all right, you've done enough guilt, feel that
you've done enough.
Yeah, generations are
cool, right? Like, because society could always kind of raise this ghost up from the dead, where it's like, you should feel bad, right? So like the whole world bad, right? Because everybody did slavery.
Okay, for example, California, talking about like reparations and stuff like that, a state that wasn't it, like that didn't have slaves. You understand? Like they're pulling all the ghosts that had nothing to do with California. Right. It would be like Spain being like, because France had slaves, we have to pay you guys money. That's how far you're like. It doesn't matter though, Yeah.
Yeah, I think the dichotomy that kind of really resonates with me is like the difference between how he's like trying to break down good and evil ways of looking at this scaffolding is like, if you look at it in a sense of the scaffolding exists to tear me down and keep me lower, then it's evil. But if I can see it in a good way, that I can use the scaffolding to society or my own culture or my own community at a higher or better place, because the scaffolding is going to get stronger and better if we all participate, and the structure is there for all of us to participate. Yeah, I can see it as. So I think like even your example at the very beginning, the way Jay broke it down, like how it could be looked at as evil, and then John was like, well, like it actually is a good thing for structures and things to be built on top of things, because that's how
like imagine if we had we put in time as a generation to build good scaffolding. Our children could then benefit and climb the scaffolding,
Right.
and then like if it works correctly, then like they reach the top and then they have to build new scaffolding up higher. And like they might not actually get to use it, but if it works out right, then their kids get to use it. Like that's like in like the truest sense of like what it means to aim up, right? As a conglomerate, like the United States, like we've had we're supposed to like a vision as our country, right? And like my grandparents passed that down to their kids and so on and so on. And like I'm living off of that scaffolding of like 250 years ago, and now people are feeling guilty about how high we are, or that like that's what it means. I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like
to feel bad with all the stuff that the generations before us did is like so foreign to me.
Yeah,
like,
it has nothing to do with us, and like we have to like we're just walking in it and inheriting it,
Right.
and like it's a good thing to inherit scaffolding as long as it's like good scaffolding, right? Like literally a blessing, like that's actually what you want to be doing,
It kind of depends too, like on who is invoking or requesting that you feel bad and instilling that guilt onto someone, because it's not bad to feel bad or about some things that have happened, but it seems like the opposite party that's trying to make you feel bad is to exert their control over you.
Just use that example. The people who are making you feel bad on the scaffolding is that the people at the very top and the people at the very bottom. Those are the voices. The people in the middle are actually fine with it, and they understand the concept of the scaffolding, and they go, we know that we're not the top 10% of the world. That's fine. We're not also the bottom, and we're pretty happy with what we got. And maybe our kids can climb higher than us. We don't know. We'll bet on it, But the people at the very top said, "Don't use the scaffolding. It's terrible up here." And the people at the bottom are like, "This is pretty fucked up that we never get to climb higher." Right. So that's the voices you hear.
And they use guilt and moral. What is it?
They go, "Don't climb up here. It's terrible up here. The blood of all the people that dug. Trust me, stay down here. Actually, once we die, we're going to dismantle the scaffolding, but not until we die, because we need it until then."
Yeah. I think that farm is such because as soon as you described that animal farm came to my mind. I was like, dude, think about the pigs, like what they were telling all the other animals. Like it comes from the top or it comes from the very bottom, or the very bottom is just so stupid they don't know how to even think for themselves.
Very true.
From the top.
They something though. They know they're upset about something. They fucking can't articulate it. Like who's thy enemy, dude? And they make it confusing for you, by the way.
What's the slogan? So I don't actually have to think. What's the slogan?
Eat the rich.
Yeah.
But not rich. I'm rich, but not
literally the richest people in the world walk around and be like, "Eat the rich" shirt. It's like talk about being like gagged, bro. I'm like, talk about gaslighting. It's like I fucking I just whatever, dude. It's fine.
I saw a video where it was like when Bernie Sanders ran for president the first time. His thing was like the millionaires and the billionaires, and then the second time he ran, it was like just the billionaires, because he had just become a millionaire, and it's like it's like
he's an old-time $1 million guy. Yeah,
the guys that are above you are wrong, but like you're the guy that's wrong.
I mean, yeah, he for example because he's like a socialist, whatever, and it's like, Bernie, why do you need 7 properties? And he's like, oh, what? I can't have a little fucking fun on the side, like it's like
it's the billionaires.
It's good for you, it's good for, what is it, good for thee, but not good for me type shit, It's like, don't fucking worry about it. Yeah.
Yeah, laws for thee, not for me.
It's the billionaires.
It's the billionaires.
What was the pastor? There was like,
don't you ever say that.
Did you ever say that? He goes, the jet was so cheap, I had to buy it. It would be a sin not to.
Don't you ever say I did.
There's demons in the plane. You want me to go in there with some demons?
Oh yeah, when he's talking about having to fly with other people. Yeah, yeah. Like literally, it's like, dude, how much coke was he on that day? Like at any given day.
Yeah,
Sunset.
yeah. The fucking rheumatoid arthritis in you.
All right, next one.
Yeah, let's see. 259. All right, who wants?
All right, I'll send it. And then honestly, dude, 260. We're gonna have the puff pass, dude. No one person should take that.
We can do that.
All right. 259. To refrain mutually from injury, from violence, from exploitation, to put one's will on par with that of others. This may result in a certain rough sense and a good conduct among individuals when the necessary conditions are given, namely, the actual similarity of the individuals in the amounts of force and degree of worth, and their correlation within one organization. As soon, however, as one wished to take this principle more generally, and if possible, even as the fundamental principle of society, it would immediately disclose what it really is, namely, a will to denial of life, a principle of dissolution and decay. Here one must think profoundly to the very basis and resist all sentimental weakness. Life itself is essentially appropriation, injury, conquest of the strange and weak, suppression, severity, obtrusion of peculiar forms, incorporation, and at the least, putting it mildest, exploitation. But why should one forever use precisely these words on which for ages a disparaging purpose has been stamped? Even the organization within which has, as was previously supposed, the individuals treat each other as equal. It takes place in every healthy aristocracy. Say that for me, Jay.
Aristocracy.
Aristocracy. I got tongue tied. Must itself, if it be a living and not a dying organization, do all that towards other bodies, which the individuals within it refrain from doing to each other. It will have to be the incarnated will to power. It will endeavor to grow, to gain ground, attract to itself and acquire ascendancy, not owing to any morality or immorality, but because it lives, and because life is precisely will to power. On no point, however, is the ordinary consciousness of the Europeans more unwilling to be corrected than on this matter. People now rave everywhere, even under the guise of science, about coming conditions of society in which the exploiting character is to be absent. That sounds to my ears as if they promised to invent a mode of life which should refrain from all organic functions. Exploitation does not belong to a depraved or imperfect and primitive society. It belongs to nature of the living beings as a primary organic function. It is a consequence of the intrinsic will to power, which is precisely the will to life. Granting that as a theory, this is a novelty. As a reality, it is the fundamental fact of all history. Let us be so far honest towards ourselves.
That's pretty interesting. I'm gonna hop right in just because.
Go for it.
The idea of like the difference between the will to power and the will to denial, or what was it called? The denial of life. Like, is he saying that the will to power isn't moral or immoral? It's just a function of someone serving themselves in order to achieve some sort of power, but to put that will off for the collective, or like, let's just say like the herd, is the opposite of the will to power. Therefore is like it's already on the trajectory towards decay to not do the things that you wish to do for your own will to power. It's submission to the opposite. It's a principle of like we're detracting from aiming high. We're aiming way lower.
Yeah, the first one to mention. You said it well.
Well, okay. I think it's like if you zoom out, he's talking about, okay, he's saying in the beginning, he's like, refrain mutually from injury, from violence. He's talking about all these things that like, which would make like, if you would just break down like bullet points, like what is life? Okay. And he's like, we all agree that as a race, so we're trying to like refrain from these things, right? And then also he goes, it's in good sense to conduct among individuals when necessary. And he's like, we need to have a correlation with them. And like, we treat them with some sort of respect, and we don't want to like, um, we have mutual respect for them because like we're sharing space with them, right? Because, but if you would take that same principle and generalize that, then you're denying life, because like if I can't make a decision, if I make a decision in Virginia and I can't do it because they're saying that someone in California won't like that, you know, it's like it's hard to organize all the different wills together if you're trying to keep that same principle. What he's talking about, like it's easy to have that principle when it's very intimate of like family, your wife, your small village. But as an organization gets larger and larger, he's talking about countries. You can't weigh everyone as equals, and like be able to make a decision, because then like you're denying any sort of progression. But at the same time, making a decision is denying life for like that particular person's interest, you know? And like they have to eat that too if they want to be a part of the organization. So like no matter what, like someone has to like have a denial of like life, I guess is what like that's the way I took that.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. He's kind of like expanding on his idea of like what will to power is. He's saying life is will to power, and will to power requires exploitation. Right. And so he's like repackaging exploitation. It has a negative connotation to, I feel most people think of exploitation as negative, and he's trying to kind of reframe it as a positive thing, where like it's required to, it's
just anything. Just anything. Like you could say your employer's exploiting you by like you trading time for money. You could also say that you're exploiting your employer because you think you're getting a good deal for hours of your time for money. But like they could think that you're exploiting them. So like that's too. But he's saying like, okay, well, we have to do that to be able to have like someone who like, let's say, works at the restaurant, right?
Right.
Like when you like start dating, okay, whatever, you could say like, okay, on the flip side, a woman could be exploiting a guy because maybe he's got resources, okay?
Right.
And but also you could say the guy is exploiting the women because he's only with her because of her looks. It's like, but if there's none of that, then there will never be a relationship. There'll never be like even like kids or whatever. So it's like you could say everything's exploitation.
Right.
It's like it doesn't have this. It doesn't like. He's like it's kind of like where like how people draw these conclusions that everything is just power, and it's like he's like saying sure everything could just be power, but it's like what does that even fucking mean? You know, it's like we can label things like that's exploitation, or we could label it not. Like, what does it really matter?
Yeah, and if he's saying the life itself is to will to power, the will to power is exploitation. This repackaging of exploitation as evil into it's only natural, right? Like in the sense the man and woman in a relationship. To deny that is to deny life itself.
Yeah, like exactly. It would literally be like denying life itself. It's like, yeah, of course. Like, of course, that's like that's how that shit works.
Right. On a micro and macro scale.
I do agree, because I had this like thought, like I think it was like, I don't know if I mentioned this before. I was like camping. We were all at San Simeon, and I was like asking Jeremy. I don't know why the thought popped in my head, but I was like, is any decision that I make because I make that decision because it benefits me only, or is it out of something else? Like, can it always, or any decision that I make is always going to be because it benefits me? I'm exercising my will of power.
100%.
But people nowadays will use that blanket term exploitation to say, oh, this person is exploiting someone, or this is exploiting something, right? But you could use the same argument to say like you're exploiting other people for even making decisions for yourself, because I mean, like, I don't know, I kind of lost my train of thought, but that thinking, like, you can apply that to everything and just say like you're exploiting yourself right now because you're just exercising your something.
Yeah, it's like, what if we went camping and like I drove, but like what I'm going with like the spot that like you suggested, like, or like your family camping trip. It's like David's exploiting John by using a vehicle to get there. John's exploiting David by going to his family camping trip. It's like, but that's not what it feels like. It feels like it's a win-win. You know, it feels like this is sick.
It's a transaction, that both.
But it's not even a transaction. I'm just saying, like, you can take a snapshot of any situation and be like, let me show you how it's an exploitation of you.
Right.
And it's like, but that's not the truth. Like, that's not what it actually was, you know?
Yeah. You could turn it into that if you wanted to.
Right. Yeah. Literally any social interaction or anything that any person does in any one particular moment in time can be broken down to that. And so,
Yeah.
I have a question. I'm gonna shoot. If we're saying, and especially in this context, in this aphorism, that exploitation is a term that can be used under this guise to say that anything could be exploitation or an exercise of will to power, that difference in the power dynamic is there, right? When would you say then, if there's no binary, like in this sense, then when is exploitation becoming quote unquote evil?
I mean, first, when it's at the very least, I would say a clear one is like when your actions are causing harm to others. That's an easy one, right? So like if you're saying when is it cross the line of evil, like is what you're doing causing harm to others? Yes, okay, it's evil. You know? And that might not be, that's not black and white, by the way. We're reading a look how everything's not black and white. I'm just saying like that's like that would be a general thing to like at the very least think, okay, does it cause harm to others? No, then I'm safe. Does it cause harm to others? Yes. Okay, let's look further. You know? And then like you have to probably put it through another filter. And it's like, how is it causing harm to them? Is it physical? Is it financial? Is it emotional? Or is it like sure, let's stick with those, right? Physical, emotional, and financial. It's like if you're causing them physical harm, that's probably for sure bad. So you can
It feels like
that's probably for sure bad, right? Emotional would be the only one that would be like a maybe, because you're like, okay, well, that's subjective towards you, and I don't mean it to cause you harm, and I'm sorry I'm making you feel this way.
We're living in a time where the it's like the sides of what is like good or evil, or what is exploitation or is not, like those roles are reversing, right? And some things like speech, right, has been something recently that's been like, oh, that's harmful speech, that's exploitive, that's something that is evil. It's on the line now, like the line has moved, or it's
but again, if you just refer back to what I just talked about, which I think would be normal thinking, if you run it through that system, like then like speech and hurting someone's feelings is the only time where it's probably fine to like you can't say that that's evil if I'm only hurting your feelings. Like physical harm is for sure bad. Like conning someone financially is for sure bad. But like the emotional, unless like you're a psychopath and like antagonizing them on purpose, like a targeted emotional attack. But like if it's just like you just living, making an opinion and causing emotional harm, then I would say you didn't cross the line. Even if they want to move the line, it's like that doesn't matter.
It makes me think of like the different degrees of murder, right? There's like the manslaughter where it was not intentional, all the way up to what is it, first degree, where you had intent. I think intention and like your intent with doing your action it plays an important role, and that's why we have different classifications of murder, right?
Yeah, like so that person sat there and premeditated.
If the the exploitation has malicious intent, then that's when it becomes evil.
I would go on the softer side and say it is also obviously it's a longer time span that has to play out for us to see it actually play out. But when we think of 12th place trophy, that's decaying society. That's not, it's not evil. It's very soft. It is very slow decay, but you're teaching people to lose at a regular and consistent basis, which teaches you not to go after your own personal conviction to be the best. Like, it's teaching you the wrong habits.
Everybody's a winner.
Like, yeah.
Hey, I'll be right back. I got a piss.
Okay. That's a very long extrapolated, like, we can't really like, oh, someone murdered someone. How did they murder? Like, it's not an instant. It's a very like stretched out version of how do we know when things are bad or good, or not just bad or good, but back to your question around when it's pushing that boundary.
Yeah, they're long on no hierarchy.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true. Yeah.
As soon as you start to threaten someone else's, like, especially people that like want to point finger, and just pointing finger could be anything. It could be like, well, you said this, which it didn't enable me to want to show up to work. It's like, what? How the fuck did me saying something stop people showing up? Like,
Right.
and you just want to remove the conviction of your own responsibility to show up for yourself and give other people the power over you.
I think I like what Jay said. They're long on no hierarchy. They're holding. They're like, it's gonna pay off one day.
Right. If we're long on no hierarchy and everybody gets a trophy, then what's the value of the trophy really? The first place one. It might be a little bigger, but yeah. Yeah. Let's see here. I like that idea. The idea that exploitation is natural and isn't necessarily always evil. I like that idea a lot.
I think you referred back to African 257, where he talks about what is noble. Like, he's asking the question, like, a barbarian taking over land, noble to who? And if it's exploitation of someone or something, how did you determine this exploiting of something?
Yeah, because 100%. In every culture, like even today, like the aristocrats of Iran had different morals than the aristocrats of, let's say, New Jersey, or New York, maybe not New York, but like you get what I'm saying, like, and like they have drastically different things, but they get to have, like, they go, this is like we're aiming at this version of pinnacle humans, and like that's that.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Every country has a different idea of what a pinnacle of humans is, and so like have a global government to establish what the pinnacle is for somebody in America versus somebody in Iran.
That's the denial of life. Like these globalists, and that's what they're saying. Like these globalists, like they want a denial of life for everyone, but the top of the scaffolding of the whole globe. That's what they're trying to build. And like, what's better for us is if we have like America only scaffolding, and like if you're part of this thing, and then like everyone should have their own, like whatever country you're on, like you're like, that's kind of a lottery system, right? Of what scaffolding you're inheriting. But no matter where you're at, you start building from there. And that's like a metaphor for like the family you're born into to the country you're born into, And like from there, you start building and climbing. You start first climbing, I guess, as high as you can go on the already pre-existing scaffolding.
Yeah.
And then if you get to new territory, which is rare, like think how many people actually go into new territory,
Yeah.
So like if you get there, then you have the right to, I guess, start fucking putting new scaffolding up. Then no one else is up there with you,
Right. Yeah, the elites live on Sky Island, and they're trying to get rid of all the big trees.
Yeah, because they don't want anyone else up there anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So respect your tree and learn how to operate on it. Yeah. All right, let's puff past 260. I'll take page 3. Who wants page 1?
Well, I think Devin should start, right, because Devin hasn't read yet, and then we just go from there, and then we should just restart the order. Like if Devin goes and Jay start reading, and like whenever you're done, I'll start, or David will start reading.
Okay. So David, you'll take page 2. I'll take page 3. John, you take page 4.
Okay, so that's the smallest one. So go.
I'm going to stop. You're reading that, right? Yeah. In a tour through the many finer and coarser moralities which have hitherto prevailed or still prevail on the earth, I found certain traits recurring regularly together and connected with one another until finally two primary types revealed themselves to it, and a radical distinction was brought to light. There is a master morality and a slave morality. I would at once add, however, that in all higher and mixed civilizations, there are also attempts at the reconciliation of the two moralities, but one finds still oftener the confusion and mutual misunderstanding of them. Indeed, sometimes their juxtaposition, even in the same man, within one soul. The distinctions of moral values have either originated in a ruling caste, pleasantly conscious of being different from the ruled, or among the ruled class, the slaves and the dependents of all sorts. In the first case, when it is the rulers who determine the conception good, it is the exalted, proud disposition which is regarded as the distinguishing feature and that which determines the order of rank. The noble type of man separates from himself the beings in whom the opposite of this exalted himself, the beings in whom the opposite of this exalted, proud disposition displays itself, he despises them. Let it at once be noted that in this first kind of morality, the antithesis, good and bad, means practically the same as noble and despicable. The antithesis, good and evil, is of different origin. The cowardly, the timid, the insignificant, and those thinking merely of narrow utility are despised. Moreover, also, the distrustful with their constrained glances, that self-abasing, the dog-like kind of men who let themselves be abused, the mendicant, flatterers, and above all, the liars. It is fundamental belief of all aristocrats that the common people are untruthful. We truthful ones, the nobility in ancient Greece, called themselves.
It is obvious that everywhere the designations of moral value were at first applied to men, and were only derivatively and at a later period applied to actions. It is a gross mistake, therefore, when historians of morals start with questions like, why have sympathetic actions been praised? The noble type of man regards himself as a determiner of values. He does not require to be approved of, he passes the judgment. What is injurious to me is injurious in itself. He knows that it is he himself only who confers honor on things. He is a creator of values. He honors whatever he recognizes in himself. Such morality equals self-glorification. In the foreground, there is the feeling of plenitude, of power, which seeks to overflow, the happiness of high tension, the consciousness of a wealth which would fain give and bestow. The nobleman also helps the unfortunate, but not, or scarcely, out of pity, but rather from an impulse generated by the superabundance of power. The nobleman honors in himself the powerful one, him also who has power over himself, who knows how to speak and how to keep silence, who takes pleasure in subjecting himself to severity and hardness, and has reverence for all that is severe and hard. Wotan placed a hard heart in my breast, says an old Scandinavian saga. It is thus rightly expressed from the soul of a proud Viking. Such a type of man is even proud of not being made for sympathy. The hero of the saga therefore adds warningly, he who has not a hard heart when young will never have one. The noble and brave who think thus are the furthest removed from the morality which sees precisely in sympathy, or in acting for the good of others, or in disinterestment, the characteristic of the moral, faith in oneself, pride in oneself, a radical enmity, and irony towards selflessness, belong as definitely to noble morality as do a careless scorn and precaution in the presence of sympathy and the warm heart. It is the powerful who know how to honor. It is their art, their domain for invention, The profound reverence for age and for tradition, all law rests on this double reverence. The belief and prejudice in favor of ancestors and unfavorable to newcomers is typically in the morality of the powerful, and if reversely, men of modern ideas believe almost instinctively in progress in the future and are more and more lacking in respect for old age. The ignoble origin of these ideas have complacently betrayed itself thereby. The morality of the ruling class, however, is more especially foreign and irritating to present-day taste from the sternness of its principle that one has duties only to one's equals, that one may act towards beings of a lower rank, towards all that is foreign, just as seems good to one, or as in the heart desires. And in any case, beyond good and evil, it is here that sympathy and similar sentiments can have a place. Jay?
The ability and obligation to exercise prolonged gratitude and prolonged revenge, both only within the circle of equals. Artfulness in retaliation, refinement of the idea in friendship, a certain necessity to have enemies as outlets for the emotion of envy, quarrelsomeness, arrogance. In fact, in order to be a good friend. All these are typical characteristics of the noble morality, which, as has been pointed out, is not the morality of modern ideas, and is therefore at present difficult to realize, and also to unearth and disclose. It is otherwise with the second type of morality, slave morality. Supposing that the abused, the oppressed, the suffering, the unemancipated, the weary, and those uncertain of themselves should moralize, what will be the common element in their moral estimates? Probably a pessimistic suspicion with regard to the entire situation of man will find expression, perhaps a condemnation of man, together with his situation. The slave has an unfavorable eye for the virtues of the powerful. He has a skepticism and distrust, a refinement of distrust of everything good that is there honored. He would fain persuade himself that the very happiness there is not genuine. On the other hand, those qualities which serve to alleviate the existence of sufferers are brought into prominence and flooded with light. It is here that sympathy, the kind, helping hand, the warm heart, patience, diligence, humility, and friendliness attain to honor. For here, these are the most useful qualities, and almost the only means of supporting the burden of existence. Slave morality is essentially the morality of utility. Here is the seat of the origin of the famous antithesis good and evil. Power and dangerousness are assumed to reside in the evil, a certain dreadfulness, subtlety, and strength, which do not admit of being despised. According to slave morality, therefore, the evil man arouses fear. According to master morality, it is precisely the good man who arouses fear and seeks to arouse it, while the bad man is regarded as the despicable being. The contrast attains its maximum when, in accordance with the logical consequences of slave morality, a shade of depreciation, it may be slight and well-intentioned, at last attaches itself to the good man of this morality, because according to this servile mode of thought, the good man must in any case be the safe man. He is good-natured, easily deceived, perhaps a little stupid, un bonhomme. John, you're muted.
Everywhere that slave morality gains the ascendancy, language shows a tendency to approximate the significations of the words good and stupid. At last, fundamental difference, the desire for freedom, the instinct for happiness, and the refinements of the feeling of liberty belong as necessarily to slave morals and morality, as artifice and enthusiasm and reverence and devotion are the regular symptoms of the aristocratic mode of thinking and estimating. Hence, we can understand without further detail why love as a passion is a European specialty. must absolutely be of noble origin. As is well known, its invention is due to the Provençal po poet cavaliers, those brilliant, ingenious men of the gay saber, to who Europe owes so much and almost owes itself.
So gay saber is gay science. The gay science.
Is that gay science, baby? I feel like we almost gotta take this shit like by like the different pages, like one, like page one, page 1, 2, and 3, because like each one has its like own thing that I think is like plenty to talk about.
Okay. Lead us.
Can I start at the back and work backwards? Because it's just like right in front of us. Okay. Okay. In this last part, when he's talking about how slave morality is pretty much just essentially utility value, that kind of was like I kind of felt that a little bit because I think sometimes it's like hard not to like look at the value. Okay, I think a lot of times we look at just the value we bring to things, you know? And he's like, if you're only looking at life through that, then like that's the slave morality, you know? And like, okay, then what's more to that? It's like, well, what's more is that like, are you having fun? You know? Do you love? Is there something higher that you're aiming at? But if you're looking at life just as like utility and transactional, then like whether you know it or not, like you're in the slave morality. And I was like, damn, dude, a lot of people just be thinking of life as like utility based, you know?
Yeah.
So that really, I guess, stuck out to me. Okay, I liked how you're talking about how we seek out equals, and then we seek like we only make enemies out of people at the very least that have to be equal to us or more. You know? Like anyone that's less than us is not even like considered an enemy or whatever, because there's nothing for us. Like sometimes like okay, the word like hater, right? It's like, well, first you gotta be someone great enough that you have haters, right? And like sometimes we like to pick someone who's, let's say, adjacent to us in like any particular field, whether it's like professional, athletic, romantic, whatever, and we like to make them like our enemy so that then we can like aim and like overcome them, you know? Or like sharpen ourselves. Like a good enemy is someone you sharpen yourself on, you know? So
Naruto, Sasuke, or Asta and what's his name?
Uno? No,
Yeah.
Yeah, so exactly.
Rivals with somebody who's not on the same level or higher.
That and at first, doesn't even actually for both of those, it's a one-sided rivalry at first. Like Sasuke and both don't acknowledge the protagonist in their story, and then eventually the protagonist earns their respect and truly becomes like their equal and rival, you know? Yep. But in the same way, just like Guy Sensei and Kakashi, it's like for Guy Sensei to first even get to the level of Kakashi, he chose him as his rival or enemy. For him first to aim at, to first get at the same level, and then the slingshot and overcome. And then if it's a healthy relationship, then they go, oh, like it's like fun in a way, because then you go, I'm being pushed to do better myself now because I didn't have an equal to push me, but now I do.
Yeah, it is fun. It is fun.
And it ends up being fun. Like for me, like I have a main training partner at jiu-jitsu, and like it's every class feels like I'm fighting for my life, but I'm surviving and I'm getting better. And when I train with somebody who's like not on that, I can tell that like it's really been paying off, you know? And I was like, I appreciate that I get to have someone that's like a good training partner for me, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And you could say like this is kind of like that for our brains. Mm-hmm. Let's go backwards again. Okay, I like how he talks about the noble man also helps the unfortunate, but not or scarcely out of pity, but rather from an impulse generated by the superabundance of power. Okay, like I like that a lot. So like, I think, just speaking for myself, my my pity or my sympathy levels are very low. And I think I have high empathy, so I'm able to understand where you're coming from, but I don't have an abundance of pity to give. It's rare. But anytime that I do help people, it's out of maybe I already have an abundance of this and I want to do this because it makes me happy, you know? And like, there's this whole saying where like there's abundance mentality and then there's scarcity mentality. And like someone who practices abundance mentality ends up having abundance, you know? And people who practice the scarcity mentality end up having scarcity in their life. And so like, if a wealthy or successful person, no, let's take the wealthy part out. If a successful person helps anyone out, it's only because they want to and they like what it feels like to like extend their willpower to you and help out a little bit. And it's not because they felt bad or anything. It's just because they wanted to, you know?
Yeah.
And I like to say, you can genuinely feel when someone is doing something because they pity you, and you can feel it like in the air and the energy, and you do not want to accept the help.
Right.
You know? But you can tell when someone is just like, it's like, I only want to do this only because I want to. It like literally, it's not because of like, I feel bad for you at all. It's just like, it was on a whim, really, you know? Because I can, you know?
Yeah.
You hit that. And yeah. And
There's a quote in here on the next page that was really interesting to me.
Okay.
And tell me what it makes you guys think of. But it's on page 170, right? Kind of right in the middle. It says, supposing that the abused, the oppressed, the suffering, the unemancipated, the weary, and those uncertain of themselves should moralize, what will be the common element in their moral estimates? Probably a pessimistic suspicion with regard to the entire situation of man will find expression. Perhaps a condemnation of man together with his situation.
that's so facts.
Can I take a stab at that? Like what my first thoughts were when I read that?
Yeah.
It to me was like a check on myself, and it's like it's really easy. I'm aware that I'm very skeptical of everything. Okay. I think that like so much stuff is like we're being lied to. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's easy to get into that mode of thinking.
Yeah.
And like that was a reminder that like, if you find yourself doing that wholeheartedly, then you may be like in the wrong, actually.
Right.
You know, and then at the same time, I flipped it back to myself. I said, that's not true. It's not my fault that like I'm hungry for the truth and I want to call these people out on their lies, you know? So like, it's this ebb and flow of like, don't be a doomer. And we're like, black pill, like don't black pill on life. Right.
Right.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Don't commit to like being like, it's all fucked. No matter what you do, we're all fucked from the beginning to end. And it's like, but you're, huh?
That's slave morality.
That's slave morality. But also on the same side, slave morality is never questioning the truth and never trying to find your own answers. So it's hard, right? It's like a very slim, narrow passage of being skeptical enough to search and find truth and to not let the abyss like eat you up inside as you're trying to find the truth. You know, it's like a super narrow path of like guiding yourself through that, I guess, you know?
Yeah, it's super easy to watch somebody's actions and say that's evil and leave it at that. It's much harder to be like, that's evil. Why'd they do it? Let's figure out and do a little bit deeper dive, right? Like that's the difference between a slave morality and a master morality is like, you could just chalk it up and be like, oh yeah, that was evil. But the master morality will be like, well, why was it done? And do a look.
I guess, but then, okay. But if you continue that thought and then you start unpacking the whys and then you start unpacking like, okay, well, humans are going to keep doing this and they're going to keep like, just so you find out like, okay, sure. You figured out why someone did something evil. That's even more damning evidence that like things are fucked. That like
you add, like, what are we going to do about it?
Sure. True. I'm gonna grab my charger real quick. Okay, I'll be right back. My phone's
Look
up.
up.
In the beginning, he breaks down these two different moralities. He talks about the master and the slave. So he observes that throughout human history, all moral systems emerge from one of those two psychological origins. So master morality arises from strength, confidence, and fullness of life, the morality of the ruling, noble, and self-affirming. Slave morality arises from weakness, resentment, and reaction, the morality of the oppressed, suffering, and dependent. So he's like writing out these two different slave moralities, moralities, master and slave morality that span multiple cultures, multiple different areas in the world, multiple different civilizations, and whether it's religion or whatever or whatnot, it all falls into these these two different moralities.
Yeah, there's that piece at the beginning of 170 where he talks about the friendship and how the master morality subdues a enemy. I thought that was so, like, the way he put that was so beautiful. But he said the ability and obligation to exercise true gratitude and prolonged revenge.
Yeah.
I love that.
Equals artfulness and retaliation, refinement, and the idea in friendship a certain necessity to have enemy as outlets for the emotions of envy, quarrelsomeness, arrogance, in fact, in order to be a good friend. I was like, this is crazy. That's like
Yeah.
so beautifully, but
It really makes me think of Asta and dude. It really does.
It's just with anything. It's just like, okay, they say like your first, you are like your 5 closest friends or whatever, right? And it's because like in the most playful way possible, in the best examples, in the most playful way possible, you are constantly measuring yourself up and competing against your friends in a playful manner. That's like the whole point. Like
Right.
if my friends, I would say, are all losers, then it wouldn't be a challenge, right? Because it would be a slam dunk every time. And some people like that, and they stay in those spots because like they're a big fish in a small pond.
Right.
But if you're really like the ass to the thing is like the whole point. They keep challenging each other and making each other. They keep making each other push up to the next scaffolding higher, and by doing so, they keep reaching new heights. Because they're not done pushing each other. When one gets a step higher, the other one climbs 2.
Right.
And because like he's like I'm not only am I gonna meet you at equals again, I'm gonna show you that I'm actually better, like I've always been. And they do it playfully because he's happy that his friend challenged him enough where he's now behind.
Right.
He's like, it's actually like it's like a brothership really of men. Okay?
Right. Yeah, I mean, the Bible says iron sharpens iron,
Exactly. That's Nietzsche saying the same thing in his own words. He's saying, and like, he's like, it's natural. Like, it's a good, he used the word arena. It's a good arena for you to get out of these emotions of envy and arrogance and blah, 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 because like, these are all natural emotions. And if you don't have an arena for them, then they can become a problem in other places. I think that's why jujitsu is so good for me, because it's an arena for me to get out a lot of like, physical energy and physical toughness isn't the right word. Like I have to. It's a good way to push myself, and it's a measuring stick. It's a what?
A growth arena.
It's a growth arena in a lot of different categories, and I get to have like an actual like opponent to spar against, and like if he's too good, then it's like. Then it wouldn't be fun for him either, Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this book club that we've been doing here for multiple years now was a kind of like one of those for me. Like, I used to hang out with people that if I'm iron, I wasn't getting sharpened. I was dealing with like talc,
Right.
And having like these weekly meetings and discussing hard topics like this book, we've been able to like sharpen each other in many ways. Like,
can we pause? Can we pause it right there? That metaphor you used about how if you were iron, then they were talc. Okay, in that same example, and maybe we've all felt this or not, but like, let's say you are hanging out with individuals and you want to do something that would push you, it would only grind them away, just like how iron would grind talc away. And then there's a lot of like animosity towards it because you're grinding them away, and like they're like, hey, like we're not at that level, and they almost want to pull you back down to be at a level where the talc and the iron can coexist if you're that, right?
Right. You have to rust out, become power.
You have to so what you end up doing is decay is the word he uses, right. But rusting is the decay of metal, right? So yeah, you would end up just rusting out.
Right. Yeah, so it's important to find a good pawn.
Yeah, he even says it at the end of 169. He says, immorality of the ruling class, however, is more especially foreign and irritating the present-day case in the sternness of its principle that one has duties only to one's equal. I was like, dude, that's like saying like you are going to outgrow the people that are trying to like keep you the same or not kind of sharpening you in a way you need to be sharpened. And it is if it's for your own good, then they have things that are going to sharpen them for their own good. We're not always going to like sharpen every edge of everyone at all times. We have to focus on ourselves first before we can go outward.
So I pick your rivals well.
That's another thing. Like, okay, that's a great one too. Picking your rival. Like one thing I love about in Naruto, my guy is he got intention about picking Kakashi as his rival,
right?
You know, and then he ends up surpassing him eventually. But like, it's because like he picked the best one for himself, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And then he ended up becoming a good rival for Kakashi because what was his strength, which was like determination and intention. You know, like my guy was gonna work for it.
Yeah, when my guy opened the campaign on the game, he was like hard mode, masterclass.
Dude, when he did the 10 gates at fucking against Madara, dude, it's like, bro, dude, get a little teary-eyed sometimes. Like it's like the autumn leaves fall for the new green. You know? It's like, bro, dude, the power of youth. He just fucking goes in. Madara's like, I claim you to be the strongest Taijutsu user in history. I was like, oh shit, bro, what a fucking honor, dog. He really fucking just
That's a rival of Madara.
Yeah, exactly. That's like the whole thing. That's why Naruto's so good is like because he just kept aiming higher and higher and higher, and him and Kakashi kept pushing each other to higher and higher and higher. He became a rival of the strongest person in the universe. Right. You know, where the strongest guy's like, I acknowledge you as a rival to me, which was him honoring him as a fellow man. Because everyone else, he goes, like when he was facing the 5 Kage, he goes, would you like my clones to use Susanoo or no? Because they can. You know, because he didn't treat them as equals. He you know, yeah, dude, that's why Naruto is so good, bro. It's like they always repackage like a great archetype. So, dude, that made me happy thinking about all that. That's like so good.
My heart rate up, dude. Hell yeah, dude. I mean, I think that puts a bow tie on this one on 260. Unless anybody else had anything to add, bro. That's really good.
I got one question. I'll take a so. Like we're talking about the master morality and then slave morality, but also in the beginning, you know, he's talking about having a hardened heart. And in the Christian sense, the hardened heart is almost like a warning to say that, you know, do not harden your heart. Like Pharaoh was hardening his heart, right? Depending on how you take it. In this sense, it can be looked at as like this positive way to like exercise power. And maybe you do need to have a hardened heart in some situations. But the overall arching topic or question I had was if Nietzsche is describing like the Christian, the faith as, or the Christian morality, let's say, as the slave morality, right? Like meekness, humility.
Yep.
Those things are weaknesses and ultimately not a where we're losing our sense of power, right? Like, and we all, you know, we read the Bible, we talk about God a lot. What is there any like area where you think like Nietzsche has wrong with, in the sense of like thinking that the Christian morality is a slave morality? Is it a negative connotation, or is he just saying that it is a slave morality? Like we are supposed to deny our will to power.
Well, I think it's just like in the most extreme sense, you could say that maybe the Christians have misunderstood some of the things, and they do a lot of stuff out of pity for people that are less than them. Okay. and it's not coming from the abundance that we have sometimes, I feel like, you know. That's just my first thoughts when I listen to your question. It's like I feel like Christianity's foundation, why it spread so much, is that like they help the people that are unfortunate, but people that are like the lowest class of people were the first people that became Christians, because like that's those people that were helped first, you know.
Right.
And like when Jesus did it, it's because he had like an abundance of like the Lord's like love and power through him, and like he was just sharing it with you to prove the works, because it said he was going to do that. And I feel like so Christians, they've taken that as like one of their fundamental principles, and I think it's kind of been twisted in a way where they're like, oh, you know, like they're poor, we have to help them, you know. And it's not out of the like I don't know. That's kind of that.
Too much compassion. Too much compassion.
And you got to harden your heart, because like you're talking about like you can't be sympathy driven. If you are, then we got to go over to Ukraine and fight that war for them, and I got to go over here for fucking them and fight for them. It's like, I'm sorry about it, but no,
Right.
I'm not gonna base my decisions off of like my sympathy for you. I can only base it off of like I can have empathy for you, and I can weigh all that stuff out, but my decision making is with a hardened heart still, you know.
So are you asking, did Nietzsche well, I think Nietzsche got Christianity wrong by describing it, or at least aspects of it, as slave morality?
Face, come here. Come here. Ace, come here.
Is there
Come here.
Is there any disagree his take on the idea of meekness as a because I think he's describing it here as like a he's framing it
Okay.
negatively, possibly. I'm not totally sure. I just kind of want to take a stab at a question, but
I mean, he's for sure saying sympathy is like not good, you know, and that like people are getting confused, and they over exercise sympathy, and people who are like sympathy driven, I think, tend to end up making bad morals.
Yeah, the idea of meekness is something that I kind of struggle with myself. So meekness is the quality of being gentle and mild-tempered, but it is often misunderstood as weakness, but more accurately defined as strength under control. So, like, I think the idea of being meek, a lot of people maybe get the visualization of somebody who is weak, right? But
Yeah.
I don't see Jesus as weak, you know? Like, actually, to be on the cross and ask God to forgive these people who are doing this to him is not weak. That requires like insane strength, right? And
Entertaining. Mm-hmm. Sorry, Jack.
So like the meek, I think meekness had the word.
Can I take a stab at that? Like,
Yeah.
and how like, it applies to like our life right now, for example. Western values are built off of like Christian values, okay? One of the Christian values that we're talking about is meekness, okay? So controlling like having discipline, not necessarily being weak, but knowing like when to discipline your strength. Like women in positions of power is an example of how like those morals have blended into society today, whether we acknowledge it or not. So like when you have like, let's say, a woman of smaller stature, like her physical proportions are smaller than you, you know, and you're in a workplace, and she maybe she's like disciplining you, okay, with vocabulary, okay. You're showing like you could have a temper, and you could overpower her at any moment. Is what I'm saying, okay. But you're choosing not to, because like a lot of society's rules and stuff that says like that's not okay. And those only reason that that's even in place is because Christians have set the foundation for that with our scaffolding. Like Sharia law in like Muslim-based countries do not value meekness as a virtue. And so as a result, women in those countries still today do not hold any power. because men don't hold a space open for them to take it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
True.
But today, there's women in this country who shit on Western values and Christian values, and they don't know the platform that they're saying all this on is built by those very values.
Right.
Right. True. Those are good answers. Yeah, I think that answered pretty well.
I just think of the chapter is what is, or this chapter that we're in now is what is noble. I think he's taking his neutral stance, his very observant stance of like, I don't really know if he's actually undermining Christianity, but he's also just making the claim that since the creation of aristocracy, barbarians have all overruled and overthrown the cattle or the men that are weak, or it's not who's to say that's noble or not noble, because it's existed, and were they shunned, or if anything, you could say that those men were awarded for doing that because they conquered and they took stuff. But in the eyes of God, I don't know. I think that's where I get lost in terms of things. But in my thing, it seems like he's just stating what is the identification of like noble.
Well, I mean, just the barbarians taking stuff, and like, if you're with the barbarian and he conquers something, then yeah, for sure he's a hero. And if he lost it, you would say he's a villain. But just like with Christianity, and this could be just a fucking loophole, but we say everything given to us and taken from us is from God. So like if they're successful, they're like, the only reason I'm successful is because the Lord said I was supposed to be. And they're like, good, put a fucking bow on it. We're down with that. We agree. Because like they did win. It's like that's kind of how like they like write it with themselves, like morally. It's like if God didn't want me to have it, I would have lost the conquest, but I didn't, so it's mine.
I just asked ChatGPT. I was just curious, what was Nietzsche's belief? Was he agnostic? It says he was not agnostic. He just is. However, he's not uncertain. He was just empathetic that God is dead. We heard that like phrase. It says he was a radical atheist in the philosophical sense, rejected all forms of metaphysical faith, not only in the Christian God, but in any absolute truths that function like God's reason, science, morality, etc. Yodi affirmed he wasn't a nihilist in the passive sense. He believed we must create our own values once the old ones collapse.
I guess that's, yeah. I don't know. At the same time, it's like you could say if it's not broke, don't fix it. And it's naive to think that like you can just build new values when like we're standing on like literally like the shoulders of all human history's values.
Right.
Like us and Earth that stand on the values of the West. So it's like it's so easy to say that when like you don't give history any credit.
Yeah, it sounds like that person that like you like hang out with at the bar or something like, what if this? But what if? Oh, perhaps.
Stuff. Oh, God.
Yeah, like real conclusion to anything because you just want to poke holes in everything.
Right.
Does a tree make a sound when it falls in the forest?
It's like, yes, it does.
Nobody's just there to hear it. I promise you, it makes a noise.
There's a smoke alarm chirp if the batteries are low, but no one's around to hear
it. All right. Somebody want to take a stab at 261?
Oh, we're doing more?
Yes,
we should call it, dude. I'm done, dude.
You sure?
All right.
You guys want the 261?
It's a medium sized one.
It's 7:30 here, so if it's gonna wait over there, it's fine. We can call it.
Yeah, let's just wrap it up.
All right. Well, that was aphorisms 257 through 260. We hope you enjoyed today's show. If you liked it, drop a comment down below. What was your favorite aphorism? And what was your favorite point each have made? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? We'd love to hear with you and engage down in the comments down below. So,
by the way, we know nothing, and we all are kind of, so we're taking our best shot at it. We don't know anything. We're trying our best.
Yeah, we're just regular dudes making our own interpretations of a super difficult read. So,
We're trying to create our own values now.
Disclaimer. Yeah.
Yeah, disclaimer. You know nothing.
So before you take off, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that little bell so you're warned or notified every time we put up a new video. And again, we're so grateful that you're here. And before you take off, remember who you are now equals who you'll be tomorrow. Peace.